Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with our weekly recap of all things Injustice. This is for the week of December 28th, 2023. The current character challenge is static. That is a 1 week repeat. The required characters are Flash, Green Arrow, and Green Lantern, who you can all get as low as bronze directly from the store. So this is great for sort of newer players. His passive is Aftershock, which is immunity to power drain, and then successfully blocking special attacks generates power for static. He's got 1050 attack, and he's got the same 1050 health. He was last available on the 2nd of March, 2023.
Right. Okay. First thing that jumps out at you, obviously, is the lowish stats. We used to have a lot of fun with him, and I can link in the description a couple of videos that we did where there's a glitch that you could double his basic damage without using gears. And it was fun to play with, but not that useful considering how the current meta favors specials against basic damage and what you need to do to actually set up the special damage boost. But it was still neat. Like, it's one of those, I think we had a question in our Q&A about just interesting interactions and stuff. I think this counts as one of them. So if you look at his passive, it's 2 parts. Its first part is being immune to power drain. Pretty good. And it's really useful whenever you're fighting Rebirth Raven. I actually even forget sometimes because we've got so few characters that are immune to power drain, or that we plan for them to be immune to power drain, that sometimes I'll just tag him out when the opponent's Rebirth Raven tags in, hoping to steal it back from Rebirth Raven before I realize, oh, she didn't take my power. And then I've just wasted some time.
Yeah.
The second part of his passive, generating power by blocking a special, it's good. Mostly. One area where it's not good was when you're facing an unblockable special. Because there, you just need to hope that you can survive it. Whether it's lots of health or your gears will help you. But it's leaning into that, I think, is a little bit dangerous because of the chance of unblocked specials. So the original question when you were playing with Static was, do you make him tankier? Because to me, the question's always for character, unless you want to go a different direction. It starts with thinking, how good is their passive, and how do you leverage their passive to make it really effective?
Yeah.
So do you make him tankier so he can survive blocked specials? Or do you make his specials more powerful because you're expecting to get lots of power from his passive when you block specials? And the more I play him, and you're seeing footage now, the more I'm tempted to just ignore his passive completely, right? Definitely ignore the part about blocking specials. The funny thing is, there's certain things that are better the more we play with him, right? So what we pointed out before, and it's still true, is that his signature gear, Charged Disc, is actually really good on him. And I say that because there's a lot of signature gears that aren't that good on the person they're intended for. So blocking stops 22% more damage. Static has an area effect. Opponent's team takes 15% damage from Special 2. And 20% chance to reflect all specials while blocking. So unlike other gears that reflect damage, his gear has a 20% chance to reflect all the damage. So it doesn't reflect some of it all the time. It reflects all of it some of the time. Like 1 in 5 times. So other gears, when they reflect, it's they share the damage. 50 for you and 50 for me. Not that great because you're still eating a lot of damage. Splash damage of 15%. Is really good. It's as good as the 4th World Godly Mace. But I think the real key in getting the most out of him is just to ignore the passive, ignore his signature gear. His special 1 stuns every time. Even though the stun effect, I think, is not even listed in the special 1 description. And even better, there's no damage reduction for having that stun effect. So pretty much every other special with a secondary effect has reduced damage, not static.
Yeah.
So that's great. But the problem with relying on a special 1 is that it does a lot of hits. And a lot of hits from a special will generate a lot of power for your opponent when the hits land unblocked, which is what you actually want to do, right? Because you're doing more damage and you're going to stun them.
Yeah.
And that'd be fine if you could take that opportunity to knock them out while they're stunned. But you're down 1 bar of power to stun them. So you've got at most 2 bars of power left. Usually you've got 1 bar or less. And sure, you could use Cloak or Scythe on Static, but he's still not doing enough damage, even with that boosted damage against stunned opponents. And you could tag someone in, but unless they're a really big basic damage dealer, you're not going to get enough damage output most of the time, because if you're making static your special specialist, his teammate isn't consistently tagging in with a lot of power multiple times. Mm-hmm. So you could do other things loaded them with power, but, you know, everything costs, right? Batgirl requires a slot on your team for just one bar of power at the beginning. Gear slots taken up to have power on tag-in instead of cloak or scythe, which would have been what actually boosts the stun damage. Mm-hmm. So what we're looking at right now is the perfect solution. She's not only great on other teams, she's particularly good with static, and that's Rebirth Raven. And I think people maybe are getting a little bit bored with her because we use her so many weeks as the sort of baseline team where the character being highlighted slots in with her and Hawkgirl. But Rebirth Raven is particularly good with static, literally because of how his special one works, right? So we're demonstrating it here. Static stuns, gives the opponent enough power to make it worth stealing. Raven steals it and does a 2-hit stun damage with her special one. And the boosted damage with Cloak and Scythe is so high that the first hit, if it crits, is better than most one-hit specials. Mm-hmm. We've done a team video that goes over this strategy in more detail, link in the description. But this version, Static has Claw of Horus as his third gear, which handles Astro Harness really well. If you're willing to give up that gear shattering ability against Astro Harness, something with damage over time like Ibis Stick is pretty good as your third gear because you have the possibility of supercharging and stacking damage over time from Ibis Stick with Master's Death card on the second tag-in. Raven also has Enchantress Companion gear instead of what we originally used, LexCorp Gauntlets. We give up the consistent crit damage, right? That max damage on our special one that we would get with LexCorp Gauntlets for the advantage of the ability to temporarily disable opponent specials, which still does a decent amount of follow-up damage when the skulls come in. And that's the case with Special 1 and Special 2 LexCorp Gauntlets. We'd only be getting that with Special 1. And I think a lot of the times when we're snatching a lot of power, Special 2 is just so easy to use because the minigame doesn't take a lot, right? It's just tap, 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 aim, and the Special 2 is just way more painless to use. Mm-hmm. Hawkgirl, the other variation now, is Hawkgirl in this setup has Brandish Najado, and the few times we're facing someone who does splash damage, she's pretty effective as both a tank and an offensive threat because she's absorbing it, and it boosts her health enough that she's coming in without appreciably being lower health, but still having a lot of the power if there's any splash damage.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a wash, I think, with those minor adjustments. I think all the variations on these teams work really well as long as you're thinking about using it as a, where static is the primer and it gets everything going, like the little shards, the shavings of magnesium in the fire that you're starting, and then Rebirth Raven comes in and boom, she lights it up. And what's funny is if you pay attention to the damage stats at the end, they're usually pretty close, right? There's some fights where Raven does a lot more damage, there's some fights where Static does a lot more damage, and there's a lot of fights where they're actually really close. And it's a really good 2-star team, where usually we have a 1-star on the team, 2 stars, because they really have a great synergy that wouldn't be obvious if you're only looking at the universe names, right? Mm-hmm. They're not, Static doesn't have his universe. Rebirth Raven, you might be tempted to use her in Rebirth team. Nope.
Yeah. So there we go. Based off of the challenge cycle, which has been going on for more than 3 years at this point, we expect next week to be Flashpoint Batman. Mm-hmm. Okay. This week's multiplayer award.
Okay, before we get that though, I just want to ask and point out to people who only watched the recaps. 2 days ago during our Q&A, we featured one of the missing challenge characters, Injustice 2 Aquaman, as the background video playing when we were talking about the questions and the answers. We will try to do the same in the upcoming weeks, going through the list of the missing challenge characters that aren't in the current rotation.
Mm-hmm. So there we go. This week's multiplayer reward is Cassandra Cain Batgirl. Her passive is Assassin's Ambush, which is on tag-in Cassandra Cain attacks, causing opponent to lose 25% of current health. She's got 1,150 attack and 950 health, and was last available on the 25th of May 2023, based off of the online multiplayer challenge cycle, which has also been going on for, a little over 3 years at this point. We should expect the Soul Taker sword next week.
Right, okay. So she's got lowish stats. 1150 attack is, okay for one of the challenge characters. Not challenge characters, sorry, the multiplayer awards. 950 health is a little bit low. So along with Ares, she was one of the first multiplayer character awards. And that's why her stats, even though they seem low now, Well, they were actually pretty good when she was first released.
Mm-hmm.
She was released a long time ago. Also interesting to point out is that her passive is just the one ability, unlike a lot of the newer multiplayer character rewards that have multiple abilities and passives. Even Static has 2 abilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
25% health reduction, decent amount. But the key word in that description is current and not maximum, meaning that it's impossible to knock out someone with her passive, unlike Teen Titans Raven's passive, which is also percentage of health, but because it's the max health, it can actually knock them out after her special completes. It can be fun leading into the tag and damage by giving Claw of Horus for another 10%. She's really fast. It feels like when I play her that she's the fastest of any of the other Batgirl skins when she's doing her basics. She's got the special one like all Batgirls with the stun right at the beginning, so she's a good candidate for Cloak of Destiny or Necron Scythe.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, one thing to keep in mind if you're going to be using Cloak of Destiny, her passive breaks the tag and stun you get from Cloak, which means the stun ability of the Cloak is wasted on her. So if you've got a team where someone else could benefit from the Cloak, use it on them instead and use Necron Scythe for Cassandra Cain.
Mm-hmm.
Because she has such a powerful special one when geared like this, and her passive reduces opponent's health down to 75% of the original amount, she doesn't need more than Tantu Totem to be the special specialist. She's one of those few where just the one hit is enough. And that allows a secondary attacker to use Master's Death card. And if you add Enchantress Companion gear with Claw of Horus on that secondary attacker, they become super effective at stripping gears off the opponent. If you pick someone who has bleed on special 1, then it's even better. They get more effective at bleeding out the opponent by stacking the special 1 damage over time effects with either just 1 bar on the second tag in because of Master's Death card, or with 2 bars because of Enchantress, that you do the second special 1 as a quick follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm saying this seems like a real opportunity for using another one of the missing challenge characters, either one of the is it Aquamans or Aquamen?
Mm.
Which one is it? I never know. Because it depends on whether the word is like its own word or whether it's a thing.
It almost never comes up, I think.
Yeah, Batman. So still a pretty good card. Her passive scales up to her opponent, so even if it would be better to be total health, current health is still pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to the store, we've got Flashpoint Batman for $24.99 Canadian. All of our prices will be in Canadian because
that's the only currency that matters.
Sure,
baby.
And so that's a corroborating clue to next week. It's sort of the second piece of evidence that Flashpoint Batman is next week's challenge. It comes with 100,000 power credits. So it's all right, it's kind of a standard deal, but it doesn't unlock it in your store.
Right.
And as long as you're confident you're going to be able to complete the challenge next week, if you don't already have it, it's way better to play instead of buying.
Because you know what's going to unlock it in your store? Finishing his challenge next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have the character bundle Suicide Squad that's around for its second week.
And new this week, we got Justice League pack. $24.99. It's the Superman, the one that's in the store. It's Aquaman, who's a challenge character, and Regime Wonder Woman, who's also in the store. So this is not a great pack.
Mm-hmm.
When you got characters that you could otherwise buy with power credits, and one guy who's a challenge character, and he's not great. Maybe we'll change our minds after we play with him next week during the Q&A.
Yeah. That's
what I'm hoping to do. Maybe we'll change our minds, but unlikely.
Phantom Zone is back, and it's got 1 week left. We're halfway through. Fight 62 is still broken. We've got double XP for another 4 more days, I think.
Yeah, 4 more days. Last week we said it was going to be 11. It's going to extend right through the New Year's weekend.
Yeah. Last weekend's breakthrough for golds was Lex Luthor, Batman, and Doomsday, and this coming weekend's should be Bane, Killer Frost, and Ares. And we have a link in the description to the breakthrough cycle on Reddit from Devlin16 if you want to check that out for yourself.
Right. So as far as current glitches go, we go into more detail every time something significant changes, which did not happen this week. Even if nothing changes, we still do a more detailed review once a month, the first week of every month. Most recently, that was our recap from December 7th. And I guess the next week will be not only a brand new month, but a brand new year. Yeah. Woohoo, 2024. Okay. So the main thing... so you can also see a video tutorial for every working glitch in our playlist, Current Working Glitches, linked in the description of this video. And the main thing worth mentioning is that the challenge reset glitch has been confirmed to be working on this week's static challenge.
There we go. So that brings this week to a close. To finish up, we'd like to give a huge thank you to our patrons on Patreon. That's Michael Devries, Irvin, Ruiz, Hoshi127, and Nora Klimek, supporting us on the credited level, as well as the name scrolling past now, have supported us at some point during the pandemic. Thanks so much to you for your support, and thanks so much to all of you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Komoda.